To our Let's Get Savvy live session. We do this session every second Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. Today I am joined with Eric Spada from Mission 35 Mortgages.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fabulous for this Wednesday.
Yes, we have been counting down to 10 a.m. Excited to share some tips with you guys, talking about do's and don'ts of mortgages and the spring market. So some buyer tips and seller tips. So let's start on the buyer side, right? For getting ready for spring market, you want to buy a home, some things you want to get done before that process starts. So one of the first things is just getting pre-approved, talking to someone like Eric and making sure you've got all your ducks in a row. So talk to me about, we had a conversation yesterday
Yep.
about, do's and don'ts and
Yep.
things that you want to do when you're talking to your mortgage specialist and being transparent.
Yeah,
So,
ultimately, here's the reality is that when we go through the process, if there's any skeletons in the closet, we will find out.
right.
So obviously being transparent and honest is going to be, first and foremost, and that's got to be a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, working with somebody who's not afraid to have the tough conversation with you
Yeah.
and really guide you, but that takes time. So you have to be invested in the process. If
Yeah.
you are looking for the quick, you know, 2 minute conversation, 10 minute conversation, that's probably not going to end well. I mean, there are certain situations where that's all it, may require because it's very, very simple.
Right.
But you know what? Like honestly speaking, you need to invest in the process. So
Yeah.
so do invest in that process. Do make sure you are transparent and you're listening, right? A good mortgage advisor will ensure that it's not just about the mortgage, it's about the holistic experience. It's
Right.
about cash flow. It's anchoring your decision against your goals,
Mhm.
right? Because that's ultimately what we need to know. It's very different from a first-time home buyer versus somebody who's 55 looking for retirement.
Yeah.
And then
Different goals.
different goals, different life
Absolutely.
stages, right?
Yeah.
First-time home buyers are going to be having kids eventually, possibly.
Hmm.
Diapers are not cheap. Some of the don't change your job
Right.
in that process. I mean, um, don't lease or finance a new boat or a car or something of the
Write
nature.
these down,
Yeah,
everyone.
just
Write
write
this
them
down.
down.
Get a pen
Don't
and
do those
paper.
things. If you're gonna, if you again, transparency. Hey, listen. So I'm working at wherever, but I did apply for a job. I haven't heard back. Is that going to affect that? And then we can talk about that
Right. And
because
be prepared
be
if that is
prepared.
the
Absolutely.
situation. Yeah.
Preparation is key.
Right.
And don't rack up your debt. So, like, yeah, everybody's stressed out. We had 4 years of not going anywhere. People are now going on vacation. Don't start booking that Mediterranean cruise for 20 grand on your credit card, 2 months before you're going to buy a house.
Yeah.
So just simple things. And you know what? Don't be afraid to hold your mortgage advisor accountable, meaning keep in constant communication with them.
Yeah. That's
Like,
the best way to do it, right?
yeah,
Because things come up, things change. You've got to be on the same page. Like when you have a dream team, everyone needs to be on that same level and wavelength, right?
absolutely.
To get that goal achieved.
You
So,
got it. You got to have that dream team. That's the realtor, the mortgage advisor, the lawyer, if you're selling, you need that stager,
yeah,
the
absolutely.
appraiser, the home inspector. Like there's so many people.
Right. So talk to me about, what we're seeing right now in mortgages, some rates and things with variables and fixed.
Well, rates are a funny conversation, right? So, again, there's insured, which means you're putting less than 20% down,
Hmm.
and then there's insurable, which is going to be, it's going to be under $1 million, but there's that segment there, and then there's conventional, which is over 1 million, but then you have caveats of the first-time home buyer, 30-year, et cetera. So there's a lot of different moving parts to that.
Hmm.
Rates are kind of sitting into that depending on where you fall in the spectrum,
Right.
again, caveat, calling us up and saying, what's your best 5 year rate? What's your credit score?
Yeah. We need
Like
to know
how
some
much
other
money are you
things.
putting down? Like what's
Yeah.
the loan to value? They all matter, right? But giving you that wide spectrum, you're in and around that 3.8 to 4.7-ish range,
Hmm.
right? But again, it's very situational and it's got to be the right number for the right solution for you based off of your personal circumstance.
Right.
If you're buying a home and you're less than 65% loan to value, you can get into that 4 range,
Mhm.
3.9 range. You can do that. If you're buying a home and you're only putting 20% down, you're or yeah, if you're putting 20 or 25% down, you're going to be up into that 4.6 range.
Mhm.
So again, it's more than just what's your best rate,
Yep.
what's your rate. It matters. What's your credit score? Oh, 500. Well, guess what? You're not with an A lender. I'm sorry to tell you.
Right.
We're going to have to go with on the alternative route, which those aren't even that bad. You're seeing into the, 499, 509, 519 range. So,
Right.
but again, everything matters.
And we were just talking before this about, people sometimes get so fixated on the rate and getting the best rate, this and that, that they're not thinking of the big picture.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, sometimes it's only just a matter of, $5 difference, but you're getting better service and, a better team with somebody else who's going to, do the due diligence, ask you the tough questions, ask for certain documents up front and get you prepared. It might seem tedious, but trust the process is what we were saying, and make sure you see it through the right way because it's just so important. It's such a big investment and you want to feel confident. Like we hear a lot of stories all the time where, you rushed the process or you didn't do something that was asked and then later down the line, it comes up as an issue.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's what we try to avoid for our clients at all costs. So,
there's, everybody's heard of the term default rate,
yeah.
right? So, or default. How many people know about fall through rate?
Mm-hmm.
So, how many times is a purchase falling through?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the appraisal or maybe the home inspection, but how many times is it happening because of financing?
Right.
Because you didn't trust the process, because
Yep.
you didn't invest the time. You're right. I mean, a quarter basis point is roughly around $15
Mm-hmm.
per 100,000. And to our conversation earlier, we were talking about people will sit down with a financial advisor and they'll invest whatever amount of money, and that financial advisor gets paid somehow, which is
Yep.
going to be a little bit off the top. And the market and society is okay with that, right? They're okay with that concept. But we're going to haggle 4.5% versus 4.45, which is about $3 per hundred
Right.
thousand. So you're
Right.
talking on an $800,000 mortgage, you're talking $24 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But is that $24 a month worth knowing that you have an advisor that's not just here for the singular transaction? We're here for life
Journey.
events,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
journey, and we're there like when you need to, hey, so we think we might want to, what do you think we can do? Is there an opportunity? And sitting down and going, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What's going on in your world? What's changed? Oh, you got a different job now and you think you might want to move, or how does that look? Or hey, you just had triplets and you didn't plan for triplets and now you got to upgrade. Like what's
Right.
going on in your
Like, how
world,
can we
right?
do this? What does it look like? What are the
Right.
realistic expectations?
Yeah, having a mortgage
Yeah,
advisor for life, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. I know that he cares very much and very passionate about what he does. So call Eric if you need anything mortgage related.
Do we have
Um,
a ticker tape like
we should have had a
with
sign.
with the number?
But that leads me to a point of, for buyers, when you're searching in the spring market, make sure that you're shopping maybe 5 to 10% lower. I am seeing, multiple offers on homes in certain pockets, in certain neighborhoods, especially when inventory is low. So make sure you don't, become house broke in a sense, right? You don't want to overbid or be in a bidding war and outbid yourself and feel like you've, overextended yourself in a way. So make sure you're sticking to your numbers. It all revolves around the dream team and what you're being advised and those expectations, right, that are realistic. Um, so on the seller side, spring market is here. And if you haven't listed your home already and you're thinking of doing that, these are some tips I find very, very helpful. So one of them is curb appeal. One of the best ways to just get your home recognized from people walking around, driving by, and it just is first impression, right? Which is everything.
So cut your grass.
Yeah, cut your grass, maybe add some flowers, maybe change the light bulbs outside, maybe a fresh paint on the door, anything that just makes it look fresh and say, wow, that home looks beautiful.
Right.
Declutter. I have been doing this at my home myself. Spring cleaning is a thing, and I can't stress this enough with my sellers. Cleaning out those closets and those, high traffic areas is such, it will always pay off because when buyers are looking in for, for storage and things like that, they look for those things. And if something is overcrowded, it gives the impression that you do not have enough storage.
Yeah,
So make sure you're
a lot
doing
of buyers can't see the forest through the trees. They
exactly.
can't get
You got
past
to
the,
help them.
yeah, you gotta, don't worry, the furniture's not gonna be there.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And, just mini fixes. Like if you know something's leaking or, you've been putting off painting for a bit, just get that done, get that home fresh. And I promise you that it will pay off because in a competitive market, you need to be competitive and think, sharp and ahead. So being proactive. Um, yeah, and just timing is everything, right? The sooner you can get things listed in the spring market, the better. Middle of summer, yes, there's always people looking, but people are in their summer state of mind. So, if you're looking to sell or looking to buy, let's get in touch, especially with Eric as well. And our team at SAVI is always happy to help. Is there anything you'd like to
You know what? You know what's a big
share?
topic that we've been talking about
Yeah.
is this decision paralysis that people are going through
Yeah,
with all the
majorly.
conversation and rhetoric on tariffs and whatnot. And it is a conversation piece. While it's relevant in today's economy, market, et cetera,
Hmm.
I think it's important for people to understand that, and we've been saying this for a couple months, and I got to give credit to Preston on our team for kind of throwing this concept out or this comment out, which is if you are going to make your decision based off of the day's headlines,
Right.
you're going to be in decision paralysis, guys, because the headlines
A
are
lot of
changing
fear
every day.
mongering happening.
It's like tariff today, no, no, tariff, no, no, and it's like, okay, well, what's going on? Um, yes, you have a lot of fist pounding and temper tantrums happening on the other side of the border,
Yeah.
but my discussion with all our clients is like, look, you can't guarantee me today in this conversation if your company is going to be around in 2 years, 3 years. Maybe you get a promotion and you're making 50 grand more.
Yeah.
Maybe the department is downsizing, you got to shift and whatnot, and that shift means you got to move and you don't want to move, so now you got to take another job. So base your decision on what you know today
Yeah. And your
and to
current
your
situation, like your
current situation.
personalized current situation.
And that's
Yeah.
where having a holistic advisor will go through cash flow with
Yeah.
you and make sure that you're not running to the hilt. Yes, based on the numbers, you can qualify for $1.5 million mortgage, but guess what? That
Yeah.
means
Do you really want to push it?
you
Yeah.
don't have two pennies left. Well, we don't
Yeah.
have pennies anymore, so you don't have two
Nickels,
nickels.
couple.
You don't have two nickels to rub together, right? So,
Yeah.
in the end, it's having those conversations,
Yeah.
but
Realistic. Yeah.
realistic. And I had a conversation this morning
Mhm.
with a friend of mine who works in the insurance field. Their company got bought out by a much larger company 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Okay. And her and her husband have been kind of, do we get a rental property? Do we not get a rental property? Et cetera, et cetera. And so we started talking, and she just informed me that last week, the big company said, all you people,
Mhm.
as of June 2nd, are out of a job.
Wow.
And you have to reapply to us to get your job. She's a top performer in her company,
Yeah.
but again, overnight. So
Yeah. Things change.
things
Like
change.
you've got to be
So
prepared.
don't, I don't want to say don't worry about this tariff talk, especially if you're in that market in terms of steel or automotive and whatnot. But understand that if you need to make a decision,
Yeah.
sitting down with the dream team and understanding what your capacities are, understanding what your risks are, understanding what your opportunities are is
Mhm.
going to be important. And that's
Absolutely.
going to help guide you into a successful transaction and a successful grounded future.
Knowledge is power,
Knowledge is power.
and being proactive and just having some plans
Yeah.
and things set in place for if this were to happen, if this were to happen. Like you have to think big picture. Don't get tunnel vision on, the minute details because things change, things can happen. And that's another thing, right? I feel like when you're purchasing a home or selling whatever, you've got to have an emergency fund, things that can
Yep.
arise, maintenance, whatever it may be. So yeah, talk to your dream team and get those details sorted out so that you feel confident and you feel prepared. And yeah, thank you so much for
Thanks for having
joining me
me.
today.
This was fun.
It was fun. You're a great guest, and I had a great time hosting with you. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
So I'm just going to tell you guys about our listings and open houses, okay? So this weekend, it's just me, myself, and I. I will be hosting first on Saturday at 350 Concession Street in Hamilton. It's got a beautiful panoramic view of the city and lake views. You
I was
came,
there.
yes,
Yeah. No,
and you gave me great mortgage sheets, with all
little
all
sheets.
the
Yeah.
details you need to know.
Yeah.
So come visit me on Saturday, 2 to 4, and then I'll be in Aldershot Village on Sunday, 2 to 4. Another beautiful condo, great amenities, and a really, really special neighborhood. So that's 340 Plains Road East, Unit 512. And then we've got a beautiful home in Niagara Falls, Ferguson. So this is 4671 Ferguson, and we've got 9 Bing in Stony Creek. Just so you know, those don't have open houses, just the first two.
So Bing, I was at Bing's open house this past
Great
weekend.
backyard, eh?
Great backyard. It's even
Yeah,
got a
it's such an
swing.
oasis.
It's got a swing so the kids can swing into the pool.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
it's great.
amazing. You've
Great
got
little
to stop
property.
by at our next open house. We'll make sure to post those things on our page. And then for lease, we've got 95 Dundas Street West. It's a great condo unit, great location. And then we have 8 Sinclair coming to Rosedale just after Easter. So look out on our page for that. And in the commercial space, we've got 395 Anchor Road, Unit 26 for sale and for lease. And then we've got 959 Barton Street East for leased, or East for lease. So yeah, thank you so much for joining our Let's Get Savvy live session. We will see you the second Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. High five. Love it. We're still live.